much, Chair, and thanks to the witnesses being here. You know, I once again find it interesting that you know, many witnesses have come here to talk to about a single issue, you know, at the expense of a $13 billion Canadian industry. Ms. Dukas, you talked about nicotine, of course, and I don't think you mentioned anything about natural health products, again, which is a $13 billion industry. You know, I think we've heard from many other witnesses, and I think everybody around this table agrees that nicotine is dangerous. That being said, would it not make sense to create another framework to deal with nicotine products? I think some of the other witnesses explained that as well.
Thank you for that question. Thank you. Sure, it would be great if we had a framework, but we don't. And we just can't afford to wait for a framework. Nicotine is highly addictive, and that's what the ministerial order tried to tackle in a prompt way. So I think that the idea here is just to, should Bill 368 go ahead, to carve out nicotine products.
Thanks very much, and through you, Chair. So what you're telling me is that this federal Liberal government is suggesting that it's too difficult to deal with nicotine products, so we should destroy a $13 billion industry to do it, that they don't have any idea, no clue of how to create a new framework. Is that what you're suggesting? Have you had those discussions with them?
Dr. Ellis, we've suggested an amendment that's part of our brief on page 1, and I think that...
No, I get that. I asked you a very specific question, though. Have you talked about another nicotine framework with the federal Liberal government?
I think we've been dealing with it. Thank you for that question. We've been dealing with an industry that has outpaced regulation. It's happened all over the world, and governments are struggling to keep up with the new products that are being put on the market.
Thanks very much. I guess I'm going to struggle with your answer in the sense that that is what the House of Commons does. It creates laws and regulations. And obviously, if we have a government that refuses or doesn't know how to do that, that creates a problem for Canadians. But what I'm saying to you is, great, an amendment, super. I just find it difficult that we have a government that doesn't have any other way to do this besides having folks like yourselves come here with a single agenda to talk about something that is a tiny part of a $13 billion industry. I think that's, for Canadians, and especially for Canadians who use natural health products, that's distressing, very distressing. But thank you for that anyway. Ms. Hoffman, I'll move on to you through you, Chair. You talk about 700 incidents of reports, or I can't remember your exact wording, of difficulties with natural health products. Can you tell me where you found that information?
Thank you very much for the question. ISMP Canada directly receives reports from consumers, individual practitioners, and healthcare organizations. Within that, it crosses all the continuum of possible products. We looked into our database, and we had a total of 700, 400 of those since 2019. Now, these are errors or issues. These are consumers saying, the label was confusing, I bought the wrong thing, and then I was out the money and I didn't get what I needed. Right up to, this is an incident report where an NHP was overused and contributed to, for sure, in the cases that we talked about, the death of someone.
Great,
and so
thanks
we
for
take
that.
those in and analyze them.
You know, can you tell us how many reports you had that there were rodent droppings and urine in the products?
I don't have that level of detail about each and every report. We have a summary for you today.
And could you table the entire report with this committee as well?
We could undertake to compile and provide a report.
Yeah, you made it seem like though you have these 700 different incidents of problems with natural health products, as you mentioned, from something as somebody read the label wrong or had a mistake to your egregious claim of death. But that being said, I would like to see all 700 of those reports. This is a very serious issue. We have a government who has said previously that hundreds of people have died by the hands of these products. They were never able to provide that information. That is why I'm telling you on behalf of Canadians to provide those details of these 700 reports, because that's very, very important information. Will you do that?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ellis. And I should say that we regularly update and issue bulletins and newsletters on
I'm
this
sorry, I'm going to
topic.
interrupt you because I didn't ask you about that. I want you to provide those reports. This is a very, very serious issue. Will your group, who's made these claims, provide those reports to this committee? Yes or no? It's a simple answer.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. We do have a commitment and requirement around privacy of personal information. So
I'm sorry,
specific
Ms. Hoffman, I'm going to interrupt you once again. You've made a very serious claim against a $13 billion, often women-led industry on behalf of Canadians who we have received more information on this than and more complaints about this egregious overreach than in any other situation. I'm asking you one more time, will you provide the 700 incidents, or is that not a true statement?
Thanks, Dr. Ellis. To be factual, we have received 700 reports. I'm going to have my colleague, our privacy officer, just speak to the legislative requirements that we live and work under.
I'm sorry,
And
Chair,
that
but I mean,
makes
this
it
is
very
ridiculous.
important
People
for
making
to trust
ridiculous
us.
claims and unable to provide evidence of them. This is unacceptable in front of a committee, Chair.
We're also out of time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to thank all our witnesses for being here. So, Ms. Hoffman, I just want to kind of follow up a little bit. So you used the number 700, and now when my colleague was asking questions in regards to being able to allow us to see this documentation, you kind of skirted around the issue saying, well, you couldn't give us an exact list. Well, the number 700 clearly comes from somewhere. And I understand privacy. Each and every one of us are bound by freedom of information in our offices and are used to dealing with sensitive information on a regular basis. And parliamentary privilege does give us some immunity and some space to actually ask witnesses to provide us with this information. And depending on the sensitivity of the information that is given to us, there are a variety of different checks and balances that go into determining how that information can therefore be used. But if you're coming in here giving a specific number, 700, and we ask you for that number, we expect you to be able to show your work. So are you telling us that you can't show your work?
Thank you for the opportunity. We can definitely show our work. I'd like our privacy officer to speak to what we can provide.
Thank you. It's a nuance here. Can we show our work? Yes. Can we table a report to this committee with pleasure? Will it be, as was originally suggested, each and every report copy just handed over? No, it will. You
That's
said
not.
a list.
I just want to be.
No.
No. We at no point did we say hand over every single documentation from everything. Frankly, we've got a pretty busy course load and a pretty busy amount of stuff. But I want to see the list of 700 so we can determine, is this people reading a label wrong or is this people actually getting hurt? Because a number of 700 in a country that's as large as Canada, we need to see how severe are these, period.
Okay. So thank you for that. We heard something different. A list is possible in terms of de-identified information, which products involved, and how those, what information we might have on how.
Thank you. So can you please
incidents
provide
occurred.
that to the committee, ideally before Thursday, because we do have to go into clause by clause, and having that information will be helpful to make sure that we are dealing with the right information before we head into doing clause by clause and are doing amendments, which the deadline for amendments is by the end of this meeting, but this will be helpful, so the sooner the better. But to go on to the next piece, Dr. Chen, I really appreciate you coming here today, or Mr. Chen, sorry. How many practitioners are in your industry here in Canada?
I have in my report Ontario about 2,700 acupuncturists and Chinese medicine practitioner. BC, there's around 2,000. Quebec, around 1,000 something. Across Canada, as I said, in the job bank, there's around 60,000 practitioners are caring for Canadians.
So 60,000 across this country depend on natural health products to be able to conduct their business and care for Canadians. So what is the economics? What is the economic impact of this business in Canada?
I don't have the exact amount, how much the economic impact, but 60,000, that's not including the farmers. That in Chinese medicine, we really emphasize on eating where you live. So a lot of us purchase products locally. You know, you have to eat where you. So Canadian farmers will be affected. Ginseng farmers, herbal farmers. These are all people that are directly or indirectly affected in Canada.
Do you believe that the policies that have been put forward by this Liberal government will have an impact on the day-to-day operation of these practitioners and these farmers?
Oh, yes, definitely. So what will happen is, you know, so when they come in to see a consultation when I prescribe these herbs, they're going to see, okay, it used to cost $5 or $7 or $10. Now it's going to cost $50, $100 for a bottle that would last you maybe two weeks. So now it's a financial burden. Also, you know, the Vanessa's law, it's Vanessa law is based on a pharmaceutical model. So it's based on a high risk product, not with a low, you know, like prescription drugs. So these risk profile is very important. So when you're doing a product profiling, it's not your pepper. What we prescribe, pepper, ginseng, or onions are not the same as warfarin or you know, nicotine or these kind of products. It's not the same.
Thank you.
Much, Chair. You know, certainly we've talked a fair bit about difficulties with natural health products. This is a very serious topic that's come up many times. We've heard from Dr. Sharma previously when the original omnibus bill was presented, talking quite frankly very much out of order with respect to the death of a young child in Alberta, which realistically had nothing to do with natural health products. All of this talk about numbers and outcomes has really cast a very negative light on natural health products in Canada. And obviously that is a very serious allegation that, once again, you know, we've heard some egregious allegations from the minister, which he was not able to substantiate. And again, even today, sadly, we've heard from witness after witness who want to tell us that this data exists, but really, for some reason, have hesitancy to provide it. And therefore, Chair, I think this is important enough that I'd like to move a motion related to this particular set of data, that the Health Committee request a list of provide a list of the 700 incident adverse reactions, the date of the incident, the product involved, and the outcome, and this must be provided to the Standing Committee on Health within 30 days. Thank you.
I translated it myself.
Okay. Dr. Ellis, I believe the motion is in order, but I'm a little confused that you would actually ask for the Health Committee to make the production. I presume that the motion is directed to Ms. Hoffman and Ms. Hyland's organization, the Institute for Safe Medication Practices Canada. Is that right? You're asking to them to produce the documentation.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay.
You know what? I'll give you some background. Since you asked why I would ask and why I would move a motion to do that, as I said, this is a $13 billion industry. What we've heard over and over and over again is this egregious testimony that has been fueled by words that are very emotional in nature. We've had the minister here saying that this is a cuckoo bananas bill. First of all, what minister would talk like that? We've heard him also talk about factories full of feces and urine, and again, nobody was able to substantiate. We asked for this evidence before at one of our previous meetings as to tell us a bit about that. How many of these factories exist? And then, of course, the minister went on to talk about, well, how much feces and urine is acceptable. Again, without any substantiation, we've heard these claims over and over and over again. We've also heard other foolish claims to say that, well, this doesn't affect labeling. The change in the name of therapeutic product, a definition of a therapeutic product, is really what allows all of the other changes to happen. So yes, all of those things are part of this, which again, the minister went on and said that that's absolutely not true, which again is playing loosely with the truth. And I do believe that the only way to put this to rest is to require and compel, under the issue of parliamentary privilege, for these egregious claims to be justified. Because you know what? Are there 50, out of the 700, are there 698 claims where somebody read the label wrong and they were mad because they got the wrong product because they couldn't read a label? Well, this has nothing to do with that. That's unfortunately, that is someone who just refuses to read a label properly. So on behalf of this committee, I think it important that we finally lay this issue to rest. There's been many claims made. We need the documents. People would appear that they don't want to provide the information. Does it not exist? Or is it actually true? And to what level of difficulty have natural health products played in the lives of Canadians? And certainly, as I mentioned previously, from the stacks and stacks and stacks of cards and letters and emails that everybody here, and I know that is not just a conservative issue, that my Liberal colleagues have also received untold correspondence, particularly with the original omnibus bill introduced by this NDP Liberal government. And now we're continuing to hear of these adverse events, and nobody will provide the information to say what it is. Realizing that they are different kettles of fish, so to speak, we also know that 13,000 seniors are hospitalized every year due to prescription drugs. Again, is that different? No, it's about context. It's about the context to say this is a fact. It's not that somebody took a wrong pill and they were upset about it. But what we're saying here is that 13,000 seniors are admitted to hospital. That's the seriousness of the effect related to prescription drugs. So that being said, I think it important that we compel people who put forward claims that they are required by Parliament to put these claims in writing, and I think that it behooves the committee to finally lay this issue to rest. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. The motion is in order. The debate is now on the motion. It would be extremely helpful if we had